So I was here as a visiting coach in the heyday. I was here on the 4th of July where you had 12,000 people, and it was an electric place. Everyone wanted to play in Rochester. I mean, if you were visiting, it was the game that you marked on your calendar because the team was so very good back then and the culture was fantastic. This was the place to be, right time, right place in Rochester.
And then, of course, the heyday of the Rhinos, you know. Again, that Open Cup win. So just a really good, deep-rooted history of soccer in Rochester.
After a year off in Rochester, the Rhinos are planning to come back, but they're also planning on moving out of the stadium in Rochester.
And we just received word that the Rhinos are in fact going to be taking the 2018 season off. They're calling it a one-year hiatus.
For the first time in over 4 years, outdoor professional soccer is back in Rochester as 2 new clubs begin their seasons this weekend.
Well, on one end, look, you never want to see a other professional soccer club in America go under or discontinue. But at the same time, you know, very difficult for a mid-major market like Rochester that, you know, isn't a big city like a Charlotte or an Atlanta to have 2 competing clubs more or less professionally competing for the same small audience. I remember the heyday of the Rhinos at Frontier Field, and there was a different environment in the city as a whole back then. It was called Boomtown USA. It was still when Kodak, you know, had 30, 40,000 employees. Xerox, you know, had a lot of employees. And Rochester was in the cusp of, you know, soccer really, you know, really kind of taking hold in this country. But since coming back here, it seems like the community as a whole kind of lagged behind where the rest of the country was going. And that 5-year hiatus, I think, greatly hurt the soccer culture here, especially from you know, the professional soccer ranks for sure. Then you mix COVID in the middle of it all, and I think it made it even more difficult. It was kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So for us with Flower City Union, when we launched last year, well, we announced in 2021 more or less, and then we finally played in 2022. It was almost like we were starting over again.
We got our colors from lilac, obviously, purple as the accent, and then we've got the flower in the middle of the crest, but the very center of it is supposed to be a camera flash, which is an ode to Kodak. So we tried to kind of nod to both of those with our crest, and yeah, that's how it relates kind of to our city and celebrates our city. It's more than just soccer. You know, we always want to be kind of a platform or an avenue for small businesses, for difference makers, for organizations that are doing the important work. And I think that that's kind of where soccer and where sports in general needs to be now. They're going to support their fans in ways outside of what they're playing on the field. If we can continue and hold true to those values, that, you know, soccer in terms of the culture here in Rochester could be really big.
But along with that, we also do appearances at already established events throughout the year. 2 that I can think of off the top of my head is we'll be at the Lilac Festival this year, and we were last year. And we're also doing the Golisano Children's Hospital Stroll for Strong Kids walk. So there's a lot of charity involvement like that.
Obviously, it starts with, you know, the performance and the team on the field.
the players have a full athletic facility here. So we have the stadium outside, which is about 13,000 seats. We train in on the field every day. Even when it's snowy out, they do plow it for us, so we're lucky we've got a great facilities crew here as well. Players do have access to a full weight room and cardio room. So a normal training session is guys will activate inside on the turf. They'll use the cardio room, get themselves nice and warm, and then they'll come outside. We'll do some dynamic movement, just kind of warming up and stretching, and then they will continue on. We'll go into a passing activity, something along those lines. A lot of touches on the ball. That's the biggest focus for that first little bit, is they've warmed up their bodies physically, so now they want to warm themselves up technically. So then we will go into something that's opposed. So it'll be non-directional. It'll be smaller sided, maybe 66, 77, lots of touches. Then we'll go into the teaching moments of training. So whatever the topic is that we're trying to work with the players on, that's when we'll hit that as in the next moment. And then we'll finish up with a game, whether it's 11v11 on certain days or 9v9. It all kind of depends on our physical and tactical periodization for the week. So the youth side of it is an important aspect of it too. Get them involved, get them going to games, and that's where the love of the game comes from, is the younger players.
I think being engaging for those professional teams, whether it's the best teams in the country, college and high school teams, they need to get involved in that youth level. That's where they started. So to give back and come back and do programs, kind of show their experiences of playing soccer and how playing a team sport is rewarding, not just for, going pro and making money. You try to make sure people know that, but at the same time, when you have a 4 or 5-year-old coming into your club, you want them to have the most fun, so they stay in the sport.
Right, soccer is a game that anyone can play. It's inexpensive. And those are the two things I think that started kids loving the game and parents trying to understand it. And then all of a sudden, as kids are today, there's no stoppages, right? It's a game that you continue to move for however long you play. And that's how kids are these days. I mean, the pace of the game of baseball, right, is not how kids grow today. So the sports where you're moving, it's only 90 minutes at most, so when you're getting in, when you're getting out. The pace is quick, and that's a huge plus for the game of soccer in today's society.
Recently, we've been working with the town's after-school program. They come in over the school breaks, and we give 50 to 60 K through 5th grade kids a free soccer clinic. They come in and they meet myself, our different coaches, come in and kick a ball around. They see our indoor turf facility. It's something to get the kids moving and get their energy out. We have a lot of outreach on social media. Having our name out there as a local business, but also a youth organization, has been successful for us.
Yeah, so I think we've got a great soccer culture here. We try to focus in on the individual and what's best for the individual. And again, it's all about part of our philosophy, which is life lessons through the sport of soccer. And as long as we continue to build off that philosophy, I think we'll always be successful. Again, Rochester has a very rich history, and history is important. It is part of our DNA here. Kids love to play soccer, and it's not a sport going away. I do believe that we're going to be here for a long time. The professional side will figure it out. I think there is room for professional soccer. You know, there's a little bit of trying to figure out just how it fits in these next up and coming 10 years.
A sports team can truly unite a community like no other. I know one thing for sure, being a Rochesterian myself and not living here for over 25 years, that people from Rochester have a lot of pride in Rochester. You could go to any city in America and you bump into somebody from Rochester and you guys find out you're both from there. You're immediately going to connect and you're going to start talking about garbage plates and Seabreeze and Abbott's ice cream and all the things that make Rochester, Rochester, right? But I also think like along the way, maybe this city has lost its identity a little bit. Could we help this city find its identity again and make the community and the citizens of the community have that common thread, that common bond, and the common pride?